Yay. Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great to have you.
It's great to be here. Yeah, I'm super excited. I've never done a video podcast before,
Yeah.
despite having this wonderful hair. Uh, that the Spotify viewers, I guess, can see. I haven't cut it since like 2019, so
Wow.
it's getting kind of long. But
Wow.
anyway,
Yeah, man. Yeah, I like it, man. I don't know why more people don't do it. I mean, I just happen to have videos for all my podcasts. Like at first it wasn't a video cast, and then I slowly just went uploading them because Spotify just had like this new option where you could upload them to your previous podcast.
yeah. Well, I actually host on Anchor, which is Spotify. They call it Spotify for podcasters now. Uh, so it's should be super easy for me to post video there.
Yeah.
Are you liking it? Is it worth doing?
Yeah, I think so, man. Yeah. I think it adds another dimension to the conversation. And
Yeah.
also, like, one of my guests one time, for example, was showing me something on his computer that also the listeners could see. So that was
Oh
kind of
yeah.
cool, right? Because like they
A
share the screen,
little
so
yeah, screen
they get
share moment.
the full experience, man.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, man. But your podcast has really good audio too, man. I love the audio too.
Oh,
For it.
thank you.
Good
Yeah.
stuff, man. High level. I love your podcast, man. Notes in the net. For those who don't know,
Yeah.
everyone
Nodes
should
in
go
the
check it
net.
out.
That's I started it a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
There's a couple few episodes out. About like halfway through the year, JT, who was like my co-host originally, decided that we mutually decided that it might be cool to start inviting other people on. So hopefully you'll return the favor and come on Nodes.
Of course, man.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would love to.
Uh, it's been a lot of fun. It's basically what it amounts to, I would say, is like a fan podcast for the ecosystem of Discord servers that like you and I belong to. So you've got like the Duncan Trussell people and the Jason Louv people and the Douglas Rushkoff people and the Jessa Reed people. That Discord is lit with
Oh yeah.
the aliens.
The Shane Moss Discord, man.
The people who, oh, I'm not on this. I got to get on the Shane Moss
So
Discord. Is that
good.
for yeah. What's his show? Mind Under Matter, I think.
He has a lot, man. He has Mind on the Matter with Ramir Nazer.
Yeah.
Amazing podcast. But he has his own podcast. He has like a bunch of shows, man. It's really crazy.
Oh, cool. Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
my podcast schedule is so booked up. It's like when I'm in the shower, I'm listening to podcasts. I'm walking the dog, I'm listening to podcasts. Like my daughter has to
Oh,
like tell me to stop when we're when we're driving to school or whatever. She's like, I don't want to listen to these weird old men, Dad.
that's
You
literally all
know?
my friends, bro. Literally all my friends and my sister and all the time, man. I'm just chilling. I'll be on FaceTime with a homie and I'll be like, "Yo, what if we listen to a podcast together?" Like, and they're like,
Yeah.
Sure, man. Yeah,
Yeah. And it feels like an accessible thing, like something that you can do with people, Like
it's
I
really cool.
if you listen to enough of them, you sort of get a handle for uh enough of a handle at least to like attempt to make your own. I think everybody should do that. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've seen like I have some other friends like Nathan Nathan Reeves who just started his own little podcast and it's crazy to see how many people are just doing it. It's like it seems so accessible to everyone and same with like comedy, for example. Like
Yeah.
I like it's just like shows like Kill Tony. I don't know if you know Kill Tony.
Just I yeah, my brother-in-law I think has introduced me to that.
Yeah, it's just like they call it a podcast. It's like like a show, but they extract the audio and just post it on Spotify, just the audio. And it gets
Mm.
so many hits and it works. And the comedy is all like it works like without views, and that's like it's just it can be really fun to listen to things like that with other people and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
yeah, and so many new people, man. Like doing it like so many things, especially with like AI now. Like when the ChatGPT can just write your whole comedy set, or you know.
Yeah, you know what I did this morning? Actually, I'm planning a vacation for my daughter's birthday. She was born on 420.
No
So
way.
yeah, so that'll be exciting when she becomes a teenager. But
Wow.
uh, for now, she's just a kid, you know.
You
But
know, I think
we're
I'm sorry. You know who else is a
yeah,
420 baby?
a lot of people. uh,
But Duncan Trussell is a 420
yeah,
baby, bro. Yeah, man.
yeah.
Knew that.
I was I was
That's
hoping you were
crazy.
going towards Duncan Trussell and not Hitler, because that's the other
Oh God,
like
that's right.
famous one.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
hilarious, bro. Wow.
It's either like one of the best comedians in my ecosystem, or the manifestation of pure evil in the world. So we'll see how
Right.
she turns out, I guess. But we were planning a vacation, and I was trying to figure out like how I was gonna pay for it. And so I opened up Chat GPT, and I just like totally yassified it. I told it to adopt the persona of like a drag queen, and be like my expert financial advice drag queen. And it was hilarious. It's telling me it wants to like or no, it's, you know, it's got that like girl boss energy, you know, fucking you want to sashay away onto a vacation. I totally understand. That's fabulous. And like it was so fun. I watched too much RuPaul Drag Race probably. So it's like
That's
uniquely
so funny.
enjoyable to me, but it feels like a more trustworthy voice to get that like drag
Wow.
persona uh
That's
you
interesting.
know, giving you advice. To me, anyway.
Yeah, man. I mean, people were able to like take that to a whole nother level. Like they found out that that's how you can jailbreak ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And
Do
dude,
you
it's
do you know about do anything now mode,
yeah,
the Dan mode?
yeah,
Yeah.
man. But there's so many more. Like, I mean, and they're so hard to patch. I mean, I don't know if they're even gonna patch them because I mean,
Hopefully we stay ahead of them patching it, you know? Like
yeah,
I don't want like a neutered version of Chat GPT to this is my greatest fear. Like the neutered version of the AI will be available to us normal people, and then like Elon Musk has the jailbroken one, or Jeff
mm,
Bezos has the jailbroken one,
or the
and
Chinese
like
government.
the discrep yeah, exactly. Right. And the discrepancy between their power and our power becomes so severe as a result of that, that like our total damnation and exploitation becomes permanent, you know? That's the fear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's why they like put out like such like ChatGPT because like one way to do that is just by getting feedback from everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's probably the best way to grow an artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Is that what they're calling it now, or is it like uh
Well,
augmented intelligence?
it's a the
Something like that.
I guess like what ChatGPT calls itself is a large language model. Like, but
Uh,
I'm not like super well versed in this stuff, but my understanding is that like basically it has read every piece of writing that's ever been posted to the internet, and it's like filtered them down to the stuff that's like most popular or most relevant, and then it kind of like looks for patterns among the writing that's already been created. So it'll look for patterns of like this word usually follows this word, or
right.
it's actually it's even smarter than that. Like sometimes it looks for just the pieces of words, like um what do you call that? Like the prefix, the root, and the suffix. Like
Oh,
it'll recognize the pattern between um one word, and then the word following it often has a certain prefix. And so it's basically what a large language model does is spit out the most predicted text. It's basically like predicted text on your iPhone, but like way more data is going into it, and it's clearly a lot more useful.
yeah. Yeah, man, that's crazy. Do you think that like like that AI, like, cuz I know Blake Lemoy has like, he said
Yeah.
that sentient AI, man. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that, man? What are your thoughts on like
Oh man, I've been dying. I haven't had anyone on the podcast who's like really into AI yet. So so it's really exciting to like get to talk about this stuff because it really occupies my mind. But
yeah,
yeah, do I think so I was listening to Jason Louv's podcast, the Ultra Culture one,
fantastic
and he
podcast.
had on this non-binary indigenous person whose name I'm forgetting. Um, but they were saying they're an employee or a contractor with Google, and they were saying that and this has been true for me. I live in Silicon Valley, so I've noticed this response. There's two kind of camps that people fall into when they encounter these large language models like Lambda or OpenAI. They they will either think that ooh, that's really annoying. Is that me?
It could totally be me, bro. Let me
Okay.
just turn on the do not
Sorry.
disturb. I don't
I
know.
always try to like mute everything,
Wait,
but
let me just turn on the do not disturb real quick.
yeah, no worries.
I don't think I think that was totally me. How do you even do that? In here? Oh, I see it. I see it. I see it. Cool. Dude, Macs are just like getting so weird. Just like every update. Oh my gosh, what the
Yeah,
heck
well,
is
hopefully
this?
we'll have AI
No.
assistants that we could just shout commands to.
What is going on? What? No. What did I do? Is it gonna close this out? Okay, I think we're good. Dude, I just accidentally opened a lockdown server from my high school and it started shutting all my programs down like if I was about to take an exam. All right, do not disturb. All right. Okay, there we go.
That's so funny. I
Uh,
didn't so that's how they're I mean, that must be a way for them to prevent cheating, right? They have a
yeah.
program that shuts everything down on your computer.
Yeah, and it doesn't let you like exit that browser that only has your exam on it and stuff
Oh,
like that.
wow. Yeah. I could see that would be really useful in catching people who are trying to use Chat GPT to write their their essays or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
their
man.
essay questions at least.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be interesting
Um,
to see how like schools combat ChatGPT, man. I feel so lucky to be like on the newer side of AI where like we haven't established those like rules yet in school and stuff.
yeah.
Like teachers are using it, students are using it, and we're all
Yeah.
just kind of hoping nobody like does anything or
Well, my I mean, like, I kind of feel like it would be similar to, people writing on stone tablets, you know? Like, when the invention of, like, papyrus or paper or whatever came along, and people were starting to use, like, ink and paper to write instead of just, like, cuneiform tablets or whatever. I think that the teachers of that era, if they had said like, no, we need to continue enforcing stone tablets, society would not be better off. So my position, I'm already trying to get my daughter interested in Chat GPT and like Mid Journey AI, because I think it's going to be like prompt engineering is going to be the skills that she actually needs when she graduates into the workforce, provided that society and civilization itself doesn't like collapse as a result of climate change. You know
Or
what I
of
mean?
the AI
But I was
itself.
gonna say, yeah, right. I know. So the two positions in Silicon Valley, just to
Yeah.
put a nail in that coffin, are it's a large language model. All it's doing is predicting text based on everything that it's read. It's got no new ideas. All it does is combine old ideas. It's a soulless machine. Or um, I kind of think that's what I do. And so maybe I'm a
Damn.
soulless machine. you know,
Such a
like
good
how
point.
are you so confident that how do you know you're sentient? How do you know like really? So that's
Wow.
kind of the camp I fall into. Like I'm not sure that any idea I've ever had is original. I think I just combine them from all the podcasts I listen to or
Yeah.
books I read or whatever.
Yeah, totally. It's like the metaphor of like the radio station that's playing the Beatles, and the radio station says, "Wow, I have a really good voice. I can." Starts to believe that it's the Beatles. Starts to believe that
Mm,
what it's playing is the Beatles, but in reality, you're just like this signal catcher or translator
yeah.
from the station that you happen to be on, and that's literally what AI is too. Like yeah, it's taking. I think it could potentially take, like, if it learns or whatever, see what it is that I mean, I don't know, maybe like that's the only thing there is, maybe like that consciousness is the only thing there is, and these are all just different like forms of it, like
Mm,
or like transmitters of it, and
yeah.
and yeah, there's no reason to think why AI wouldn't be able to do the same.
Yeah. Well, you're studying neuroscience, right? Have you heard of the integrated information theory? I think
No.
that's what it's called, IIT.
Integrated. No, 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 I haven't.
I think it's like one of the most popular theories of what consciousness is right now in philosophy.
Yeah.
The gist of it is that any system that can create output and uh and then allow that, like, as a result of input it creates output, and then its own output becomes input for it to modulate subsequent output. So
Ooh.
like a good example of this, of like a very simple thing that people who subscribe to this theory believe has consciousness, is a thermostat. So the thermostat has a thermometer. It notices the room is cold. It ups the heat, and then the heat
Right.
triggers it to turn off the heat once it gets hot enough in the room. So from that perspective, I have an essay up on my website on creekmasons.com about how uh I kind of expanded on the radio metaphor that you're using about how like each of us is like one of those systems. We're like cell phones that are wandering around kind of like playing our own song and then doing like live remixes with the songs of people that we encounter. And it was actually, it's kind of like how I discovered a very unconventional form of like non-binary identity for myself, where it's like it's not so much that I'm like male, female, non-binary, but just like in general, there's so many me's in me that are like, as a result of this conversation, I'm sure I'm gonna take away that Beatles metaphor you just used, and it will become one of the me's in me that like comes
Wow.
out, at times. And so like is they them appropriate for someone who views themselves as a collection of many different processes and sub processes working together, because they them is plural, and I don't think I'm just one thing. I don't think I am an individual, you know what I mean?
Dude, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of like reincarnation, and but
Yeah.
like you are like reincarnating with every breath, like you're dying and being
Yeah.
reborn like constantly. Like literally you're reincarnating like at all times as a new person. And if that's the idea, and we're like constantly looping around this song that we call our life, um, it does seem like we can like also change things, you know? Like, um, we can like listen to the same we can like listen to the same song, but this time uh go on a walk instead of playing video games, for example.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
it feels a lot easier to play video games because that's what the song is, you know, that's what it's always been playing.
Mm,
But when you finally like get yourself out of that like dimensional dip of like countless lifetimes of you playing video games, you
yeah.
finally like are in a brand new reality where you decided to take a walk and you like, you know, never been in this reality before. You're like literally in a new reality and
Yeah.
you are experiencing that for the first time. And
Yeah. I exact same realization and literally on a walk mid COVID. It was either 2020 or 2021. I was doing this like poetry project where I was writing a poem a day. And
nice.
yeah, it was a helpful catharsis for the pandemic.
Wow, yeah.
And it's up on Amazon. Not to be Mr. Self Promote, but like it, if you want to check it out, you can. And one of the poems in there is actually about this feeling of like, why am I afraid of dying of COVID? I don't remember what I ate for lunch last Wednesday. That Jeff who ate that lunch is dead. And I exactly like you're saying, I've reincarnated into some of the same cells, and in a way I like share some things in common with that person, but it might as well just be karma that I've accumulated, like the video game karma, or the walk karma or whatever. It,
Yeah.
it am I a continuous self, or am I constantly like dying and being reborn?
Yeah, man.
I'm
And
into it.
I think that's beautiful because at the same time, like I think the fact that we have like gotten used to this reality, like I think that's so funny. Like
Yeah.
people just think this is so like normal and casual, like the fact that we're here and like we're like traveling millions of miles per hour, suckling at the tip of a star, just like casually, you know? But like I do think that COVID did bring like that idea of like, oh shit, I can die. Like to a lot to a
Yeah.
lot of people. And like personally, that like I feel like that brought a lot of joy to like some mundane like stuff that I was doing as well. Like I was like, wow, this could really be the last time I ever washed dishes as a human being. Like if I just go out and get
Yeah.
COVID and I'm just washing the dishes and I'll feel so happy, man. I'll be like, I'm so lucky to be in a human reincarnation and just being here. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very Ram Dass,
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, Ramdas, man.
being here now. I love it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's crazy that we're here now, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, uh, it is crazy times. It feels a
Oh
bit like
yeah.
we've all sort of collectively entered into this process of initiation into like a true adulthood.
Yeah.
This is another thing that I picked up from a podcast. I think it was with George Mead and Russell Brand. And George Mead is like a cultural anthropologist, I think, or
Oh,
an
nice.
expert in mythology. And I hope I'm getting that name right. But what he said was that if you look at leaders like Donald Trump, and hopefully I'm not being too political, but like if you look, even Biden, you could make the same argument. These are people who have very little empathy, very little civic mindedness. There's characteristics of narcissism in all of our elected officials, right? Like that's
Yeah.
part of what makes them arrogant enough to believe that they deserve power, right? Is an aspect of narcissism. And these are all qualities of people who are at a stage in their life where they're not like just conscious of the interconnectedness of the collective and the way that value is created socially, right? And
Yeah.
so what a lot of ancient cultures used to do was around the time of, like 18, 19 years old or whatever, when a person was transitioning from child into adult, they would have this, initiation ceremony. And in it, they'd be forced to confront their own death and
Wow.
experience extreme isolation. And there's some other similarities to the like lockdown that we all experienced via COVID. And my hope is that and a lot of people that I'm talking to, I don't know if this is just an aspect of my filter bubble or, like the fact that I discovered the DTFH at the same time and like Midnight Gospel. So I'm talking to a lot of people who are on this wavelength. But the impression that I'm getting is that as a result of this initiation that we collectively went through as a society, we are developing those like empathic like collectivist ideals that characterize like as a society we're moving into an adulthood where we're addressing our problems and we're working for equality and getting rid of the exploitative extractive systems of late stage capitalism that everybody's sick of and just like whining about on TikTok, you know.
Oh yeah.
uh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man, and you can see this with like like um for example AI number one that is going to completely
Yeah.
destroy
Yeah.
capitalism. I mean, but another way you can see it real well is with like the like you're seeing more places like be legalize more drugs, for example,
Yeah.
and people are just being more willing to talk about it, and I just think that whenever that reaches a point where the professionals are using literally everything that's available, like no one's gatekeeping anything anymore, then we're gonna start seeing like some really cool shit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everything's just gonna get like so much better, man. And I think that's why it's happening because it's just naturally like evolution. I feel like it's a.
Yeah. Yeah,
I hope.
those
I hope.
it's yeah, of course, right? The alternative is that we regress back to like an anarcho primitivist you know, we don't have medicine anymore, but at least we can share stories with each other around the fire and feel that connection. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
only position that you can take from the current like reality that we're all living in that's dangerous in my opinion is one that wants to cling to the way that we've done things in the past. If you don't allow yourself to grow and be adaptable, um I mean, that's what the psychedelic renaissance is about, is growth and trauma, overcoming trauma. And then the AI, you have to grow, you have to learn, you have to abandon the clay tablets or whatever and get with writing on papyrus, and then just generally like the revolution that we're experiencing is one where you have to be adaptable, I
Yeah,
think.
man. I love this metaphor that the 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 rope burn metaphor that
Mm,
you're holding onto a rope, and if you don't let go, I mean, you're gonna get burnt
yeah.
because the rope is gonna move, but you can hold on to it as much as you want, but it's gonna hurt, probably, most
Right.
likely.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's definitely necessary moving on to these next few stages. What do you believe in astrology, man? Like
Uh, I don't know. I go back and forth. It's, since 2020, I've started like paying a little bit more attention to astrology.
yeah.
And there is a weird coincidence of like my energy levels and mood states and things with the stuff that like professional astrologers talk about, and like the real ones, not like newspaper horoscope.
Mm,
Nobody's wasting their time with
yeah.
that, I hope.
Yeah, like
But
NASA and stuff like that. Or like stuff like that.
you- uh, are you saying astronomers or astrologers?
Oh, no, astronomers, like, what's an example of, like, a professional astronomer?
So there's I think there's some disambiguation necessary. The like astrology is like, what's your sign? Like I'm an Aquarius. Uh
Yeah.
and
Yeah, what's an example of, like, a professional in that?
a
Just
professional astrologer is
yeah.
like Jessa Reed, I think would qualify.
Yeah.
She's the
Got you.
she's like a podcaster, and
Got
Uh,
you.
like there's people who do like these complicated fucking readings where they
Yeah.
take into account like the exact
Yeah.
second that you were born and the motion of the planets and the stars and every like
Yeah.
there's like complex geometry that's involved, and like they can actually get like really specific on one person, or like a really good reading on like the general population based on like what's in retrograde or whatever. That would be a
Yeah.
professional astrologer. Whereas
Got
you
you.
find these like readings in the newspaper that are like, if you're
Oh,
an
okay, I see what you're
Aquarius,
saying, I see what you're saying.
your opportunities today for romance are on the rise,
I
and that's just hokum.
I was really hoping you were gonna say, like, NASA has proven, like, astrology or whatever. Dude, I'm just so fucking confusing now to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about it, man, but
I
I
think I'll tell you this though.
yeah.
Warren Buffett, I think it's Warren Buffett, said that millionaires don't believe in astrology. Billionaires do. So
Oh,
take from that what you will.
wow.
I think it was Warren Buffett. I
Got
could
you.
be wrong. I'm not an expert, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I have fun with it. What was your question? I just like totally trampled all over you.
No, 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 like, it was just like, I just I guess just your opinion on it, man, like, you answered it, man. Um, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
I
okay,
mean,
well, yeah, I kinda I
go.
kinda remembered the scope of it. It was like, do you believe that we are in some kind of like? Because I've seen people like talk a lot of like, oh, we're in Mercury retrograde
Yeah.
and like we're gonna slowly get out of this, and then we're like moving like collectively, or they're just like the whole idea of it, like
Yeah. I think there's something there. You know, I've like just paying attention to the people on the Discord server for my podcast. Uh it is pretty clear that like certain full moons tend to affect everyone on that server the same way. Like we're all super high energy, and like you could say
yeah,
manic if you wanted to pathologize it. Um,
sure,
and then like at other times in the year, we're all like, I don't know, where it they say women sync up their periods. It seems like I've synced up my like bipolar disorder, which
yeah,
I'm literally diagnosed with. I've synced that up with the energy levels of people in my like podcast community,
yeah, dude, I agree. I think it's crazy that like girls' periods can like sync up with the moon.
Yeah,
Or like if you start hanging out too much with a one person, you'll start having the period at the same time as them. At
yeah.
least that's what I've heard. I don't know. I
I have
personally
heard
have
it too,
never
yeah.
experienced it, but like you said, I have totally experienced like synchronicities with I'm listening to like people like Just Reed or Noah Lampert who are talking about
Yeah,
astrology. And I'll be like,
yeah.
whoa, that is like exactly how I feel. And it's like this constant like changings of moods and like vibes around a certain time. And that's weird. That's interesting. How do we not like exploit it and study that? Maybe that's what astrophysics are trying to do right now. Or like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, can you get funding? Can you be taken seriously as a scientist if you explore something that most people think is the silly superstitions of medieval people, you know?
I know, man,
It
but
it
like
it's tricky.
like think about being able to like control girls' periods. Like who would not want to like invest in that or like
Certainly, I think the women would appreciate it. I mean,
right? It would be total like profit for everybody.
I don't know if I would personally want power over women's periods. They should probably have that power themselves, though. They
Right,
deserve
right.
that after
Yeah.
years of suffering, decades, centuries, millennia.
Yeah, man. I mean, if we understand that, like, I mean, I don't know what else we can understand, you know?
Yeah. Well, do you know, it's interesting you used the word synchronicity. Carl Jung wrote a book called On Synchronicity
Whoa.
about because he coined the term synchronicity. And
Really?
he would describe situations where he'd
Oh,
be
right.
talking with a patient about fish, and then fish would show up in his life 6 times, over the course of the next 48 hours.
Right, yeah.
And like in weird ways, and that's what he described as a synchronicity. But he actually used the specific example to study it of astrology. And he looked at I think it was like the lunar signs of couples that were married versus the lunar signs of those couples compared to the entire rest of the population. And he was able to get like all this birth date data from, I think, Austria or Germany or something like that. And he was able to like cross reference it with who was married, who
Wait.
was divorced, and who wasn't in a relationship at all.
Yeah, give me one sec. Okay, Google, stop the alarm. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry.
Maybe I set it off. I couldn't hear it though. So like
Oh,
don't
okay.
worry about it. I
Okay,
don't think
sweet.
the mic picked it up.
Okay, sweet. Sorry,
Yeah.
continue. Carl
Uh,
Jung.
uh, yeah, but so he found that there was a correlation between this significator that astrology says, or like people who believe in astrology will say that your lunar sign corresponds to the lunar sign of the person that you are most romantically compatible with. And he found like a statistically significant correlation between who got married and the like traditional ideas about what uh compatible signs are. Um, but people didn't take him seriously. Like
Yeah.
Jung's battle, my understanding is like he was this like kind of mystical guy who had these awesome ideas that are gaining popularity again. But in his own time, he was constantly struggling to be taken seriously as a psychologist, because it
Wow.
was all Freud at the time, I guess. But
Wow.
I'm, this is me fucking totally bullshitting on everything that I'm not an expert in anything. I just read a lot of books, and that's that's where all this is coming from, books and podcasts. So
Yeah. Yeah. We're
Chat
not
GPT,
doctors.
that's me.
Yeah, man. We're not studying neuroscience or anything. No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
Well, I think you are, right? I want to hear
Nah.
more about that. Maybe that's we'll save that for the nodes episode. You can like give me
Yeah.
an introduction to like undergrad neuroscience, or are you a
Dude, yeah.
graduate student?
No, no, I'm a sophomore right now. I'm an undergraduate sophomore right now.
Yeah. I'm jealous. I loved college. It
What did you
was
study?
I studied creative writing.
Whoa.
Yeah. It
That's
was
awesome.
an awesome major. I highly
Wow.
recommend it. I studied it
So
at
cool.
SF State, San Francisco State.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it, it was the lowest unit major available. So I just got to like their theory in the creative writing department was like you can take a lot of writing classes, but it's not going to help you as much as taking classes you're interested in so that you get inspiration for something to write about. So I
Wow.
got to just like 90% of my schedule was electives. I was taking philosophy and religion
Whoa.
and all sorts of fun stuff.
Wow.
Uh,
That is so cool, man.
yeah,
So
it
cool.
was really fun.
That's so sick, man. Reminds me of the book that we got published together.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
uh
Yeah, I wrote one of the Mothman stories for that, Esoterotica, I think is the name we ended up landing on, right?
yeah, yeah, that's right. Look it up, people, if you want to know.
Yeah. You know what? My wife, bought the Kindle edition the day it came out and finished it the day it came out. She
Wow.
Yeah, she said she said it was actually pretty good writing. It was really fun
That was
to,
so much fun, man. We gotta do
yeah.
another thing like that, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you involved in the one that we're working on right now?
The conspiracy theory?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I already submitted my story. It was a little rushed, not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
I put it together a little last minute, but the idea of it I'm very proud of. I got it together with a homie. Uh I don't know if I should talk about what the story is, man, but it's like
Give him a preview. Why not?
all right, all right. So my story is centered around the idea that you can, like, if you suck if you take a fruit off of a tree and like you start sucking from the stem fast enough, the tree will confuse you for the fruit and it will start pumping your body with these nutrients that will grant you uh
Yeah.
like life. You don't even need anything after that. It grants you like all the nutrients that you need and everything.
Mm.
And it stems, it just grows from there, man. It's
That's
really funny.
awesome.
It's like a whole just like 4 pages or whatever the limit was of me,
Yeah.
like, just adding a bunch of funny ass stories of
Yeah.
different like,
Oh,
conspiracies.
I am having so much fun with those. We did like little writers workshops and I'm thinking probably at some point I'll want to like mine those writers workshops for people who might want to be on nodes, which could be a good idea for you too. These are
Dude,
all
yeah.
people who are, like creative and super funny, and they were all uh just fantastic to hang out with during
Yeah.
these writers workshops.
I actually have
Uh
I had scheduled I was gonna record a podcast with Lucky. I don't know if you know Lucky. He was
yeah,
also part of that book. Yeah, man, I was gonna record
yeah.
a podcast with him, but he got sick. But we're
Oh yeah.
rescheduling it, man. But
Yeah, Lucky and I don't know if I want to like inflate my importance or anything, but like Lucky and I have been working with Nicole, who's Duncan's assistant,
no
and
way.
Duncan to like kind of project plan the book and
Oh,
figure out like the
yeah.
order of stories go in and figure out who's going to be able to edit it and like uh I've kind of like Lucky on the last book did all the publishing stuff. He did a lot of the editing and whatever. And then the on this more recent book, like I was the person who helped organize these writers workshops. I put together a schedule that we're way behind on now, but it was useful for a minute.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, it's just kind of like the community organizer role is is what I think Duncan and I were calling it.
Yeah, man. That's so sick. It's such a good community, man. Such a good way to get content because, they're like genuine people. Nodes in the net, as you would put
Yeah. Right.
it.
Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, like the theory of my podcast is that there's like a budding cultural movement around podcasts where we're starting to like cross pollinate with each other. You recommended Shane Moss to me, so I'm gonna be exposed to those ideas now, and I will recommend like Douglas Rushkoff's Team Human podcast to you. It's fantastic, and like as we all sort of form this like subculture of like I'm calling it like liminal trickster mystics who all sort of enjoy the same ideas and like a lot of the stuff you said, I was like super primed to agree with immediately, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, uh, we are, I mean, everybody is nodes in Indra's net, but in particular, this subculture, I think more connectivity between the nodes in it can only bode well for the network itself and for the subculture and society. I think that there's a lot of good like new agey liminal trickster mysticy kind of stuff going on. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, man. Me too. I literally have right here, I did this a few podcasts ago, a statue of Ganesh for no reason.
Yeah.
How did this get here? I don't know. Someone took it from my dad. But, you just show up, man. They start showing up around you, man. You just gotta catch them.
Yeah, you're
But
manifesting.
yeah, yeah, man. I would love to talk a little bit more about like what interest net is. Like I think I understand a little bit like of what it is, but I would much rather hear your explanation of what it is because I really don't
Yeah.
know it that well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not uh
In
like a yogi, you know? I just read books. But it's like that's the fucking whole tagline for this podcast, I feel like. I don't know shit, but here's what I've read.
yeah.
But the idea with Indra's net is that every living being is like a jewel in this vast
Whoa.
net. So every jewel in this net is connected via fibers, via string to every other jewel,
Oh.
and every jewel itself contains the reflection of every other jewel. So it's kind of
Whoa.
what we were talking about earlier, where we're like, the whole like they them thing that I was trying to describe.
Yeah.
Like the each jewel contains within it the you could say the reflection or the ideas or the traumas or um the emotions, the experiences of every other person. We all sort of have a piece of them in ourselves, and we're all like intricately connected, every living being. There's a tree outside my window, and that tree depends on me the same way I depend on that tree for resources and oxygen. And like if it's kind of a socialist exercise, but I think it applies to Indra's net as well, where you can like sit in your room and have like a meditation session and pick something out, like your desk or whatever, and think about all of the people and plants and animals or whatever had to work together to bring that desk into your room, right? There's wood on this desk from God knows where. There's metal that was smelted by a guy in some third world country probably. you
Wow.
know there's
Yeah.
there's the guy who like had to grow the coffee that was sold to the person who managed the warehouse where this table was fulfilled in a shipment to a business, you know whatever, right? Like an Office
Yeah.
Depot that like had it on their shelf, and then I had to talk to the cashier. And like ultimately you could do that with
Wow.
anything, and you could come up with connections to like every living being, through this exercise. And that's kind of, I think, the idea behind it, behind Indra's net, is that um the true definition of socialism is that value is created socially. The like the capitalist idea is that value is created from capital. If you own a bunch of stuff, then you can create better things, which of course biases the world toward the accumulation of capital, because that's the ultimate good. So we have billionaires that step all over us, right? But in socialism, the recognition is that just like with the desk and every other product in my life, I am intricately, complexly dependent on a whole social network of systems, and it's all of the people in the world, like,
Right.
and the relationships between them that actually results in improvements to standard of living or our life. Like, that's that's my rant on it. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, oh man.
I took it in kind of a political direction again, but I think like another way to conceptualize this that's like maybe a little bit more Hindu is like if you scratch one jewel on the net, because every other jewel is reflected in it or has a reflection of that jewel that you scratched, it's impossible to tell which jewel you scratched. So we're all like sort of karmically connected as nodes in,
Yeah.
uh, an overarching consciousness that we all share, that we're all
Wow.
perhaps radios for. Uh,
Yeah, like I've been actually kicking around this idea a little bit in my head. I think Ram Dass planted it, which was the quote from the Bible that says, "If you have faith, you can move mountains," basically.
yeah,
But and then Ram Dass said, "If you like have faith and you gain the powers and everything to be able to move a mountain, like you are also in a place to understand why the mountain was put there in the first place,
yeah,
so you don't move it."
right.
Yeah, it's really tricky when, for me personally, like whenever you get to like certain like suffering, like
Hmm.
the noble truth, the root of suffering is attachment. Uh, like it's it's uh it's hard to appreciate the net from that perspective. But the idea that it's a net, I think, is like the crazy part. Like that's the hard part. Like even the ugly parts are you basically. And
Yeah,
yeah, man,
yeah.
that's
It's
that's
all.
hard. It's hard to accept
I
all of it.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, I I gotta like log out. I have to pick up my daughter.
Oh yeah,
Um,
man. Yeah,
but
dude, I know you
maybe
felt
this
about
is a
it.
good thought to end on regardless. Like
Yeah,
even the ugly parts are you. Yeah. There's a definition of God that I'm really a big fan of, comes from Paul Selig, who's a medium, like kind of a new ager
yeah,
dude who actually like has become friends with the Ram Dass crowd.
yeah,
And do you know him, Paul
yeah,
Selig?
yeah, yeah. He was on the
Yeah.
DTFH, right?
Yeah, he's been on the show.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's like a life-changing episode for me, but his
Yeah,
or his guide's definition of God
so
is
cool.
everything. So, like, the
Whoa.
like, literally all things are divine because the definition of divine is all things. So, the concept that we could um, put anything like outside of God. That we could say that any person or activity or whatever is not um, an expression of the consciousness that we all share that condenses into a a low vibration into like matter and then a high vibration into thoughts and then a higher vibration into spiritual experiences, like all of that consciousness and everything that exists in the universe. This is pretty woo. I hope that's okay. But
No,
it's
please, I love it.
it's like it's it's all connected. It's all one thing. The unity of Indra's net is that you know it's non-dual. We're all one thing, and that one thing is God.
Yeah.
God is everything, everything is God, everything is everything, God is God. That's just a, like a truism, in this philosophy. Um, and yeah, there's caveats, like obviously horrible, heinous things happen, and people act in denial of God all the time, especially of their own nature and their own like true calling and what they're put here to do.
Right.
But uh, I don't know, maybe that's something worth experimenting with. Like, what happens if you, uh, when you're on a walk or you drive in your car or whatever, what happens if you encounter the people that you meet as estranged parts of yourself, as, parts of yourself that
Reflections.
are also God? Yeah, reflections. Uh, just if God is poking its fingers into reality and we're each a little finger, uh, how does it change your behavior or your attitude when the checkout clerk takes a long time if you consider them uh, just another of God's fingers? You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Like to quote the Bhagavad Gita, the whole universe is supported by a fragment of God.
Beautiful.
Just a fragment,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. I know you gotta go pick up your daughter, man, but thank you so much, man. It was a blast talking to you, man.
Yeah, I had a blast. That is a good word for it. I hope I let you talk enough. I'm in kind of a high energy state today, but I want you on notes. So let's
Dude,
figure that out offline. And
yeah.
I enjoyed the hell out of this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, me too, man. Thank you, bro. For real. Thank you. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I'll where can people find you, man? Anyone you want to
Oh
plug real
yeah.
quick?
Well, oh, that's cool. That's like uh that's a good question. So uh I'm trying to like kickstart this like indie publishing collective that I'm calling the Creek Masons. And so
Yeah.
the website is creekmasons.com. It's one word, creek like a river, masons like the Freemasons. And that's probably the best place to look. Nodes in the Net is pretty much everywhere there are podcasts, but you can also find it at creekmasons.com. And yeah, I think that's probably good enough. You can find my mailing list and my Twitter and all that stuff from there. So
Sweet.
that's
And
creekmasons.com.
it's gonna be on the description as well of the podcast and on my website and everything.
Sick. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jeff.